Welcome to Mom Friend Material with Cherie and Jada.
Do you love it when somebody feels like they know your kid better than you?
Oh my God, I freaking hate that. It drives me kind of crazy. And I think as a mom, you are so just woven with your child.
Yeah.
Especially at like young ages. And so you know their personality, you know so much about them. And so it really, when someone tries to assume that they may know better than me, and look, by all means, I'm open to tell me all your experience, but don't try to assume you know my child better than me, because there's probably nobody else that does, honestly.
I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and it's like when you are physically present and then somebody wants to parent on your behalf.
Oh, yeah, no.
And that does kind of, I'm like, I'm here. And even like, you know, with having 3 kids, 3 completely different ages, if one of the bigger sisters wants to like parent or stop Dilly from doing it, and I'm like, if I'm not saying anything, it's okay. Yeah. Calm down, chill out. Like, I'll handle it. But I think it also comes to sometimes where trust that I know my kid and I know when they're maybe acting a little bit off, or we have a certain dynamic, and I maybe need to take a closer look at the situation, or I'm going to handle it a little bit different, and then that's okay, because how I need to parent this kid may be a little bit different, and they may need a little bit help or maybe uncomfortable in a situation.
Yeah.
So
no, I think that's, you know, that's common. And just, it's something as simple as like, you know, we've all got, I'm sure those, especially older family members that assume like, oh, come give me a hug, come do this, come do that. And like, I'm just not about that life. Like, I think when you give your child the autonomy to make those decisions, and if they're not comfortable with that, it is definitely, I think, my responsibility as his mom to step in and say, hey, it's okay if he doesn't want to give you a hug. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you.
Right.
But it means that he's not feeling that right now.
But I think I've gotten to the point where I am okay if you don't understand how I'm choosing to parent or the decisions that I make. You know, I don't need that approval, or this is always how it's been done. This is how it should be done.
Yeah.
My goal is they need to be comfortable, and I want them to feel heard. You know, that's so important, that like I'm listening to what they need and not just what I think that they should do.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things, like, no, we're not, if you don't want to hug, we will say hi and speak.
Yeah.
But that's as far as I kind of push it. Like, if you don't feel the natural inclination to go and hug somebody, like, that is okay. Because I grew up like, you go and you kiss that family member, and it's like, so now it's like, that's not how it rolls.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I mean, and I get it. Some family members just don't understand that. But, you know, to me, it's teaching at such a young age in the world that we live in. It's so important, I think, for them to learn what consent is. It's okay to say no if you don't consent. Like, essentially, you're planting those seeds at this early age that they can essentially advocate for themselves one day. But for now, it's my job to advocate for you and try to teach you and try to plant those seeds so that eventually they'll grow and you can do it yourself. You know? So it's interesting, but it's just one of those things that you have to not be afraid to hurt feelings sometimes.
You do. And I think it's one of those things too, as far as like if they're not feeling well or they're sick and you're like, I know something is off. And it's like, you can go to the doctor, and it sucks because they can't really explain specifically what's wrong with them. So you're doing the best, and the doctor's looking at you like, oh, you're crazy. Not literally like you're crazy, but kind of like you're crazy. And you're like, no. Like, I know that they're not eating what they're supposed to. And you have to really like plead your case to the medical board for them to understand, look, something is off. Can we check? Like, what do we need to check? You know, and sometimes you feel like you're being overly dramatic with it, but like, you know when something is something is a little bit different and we need to like explore it. I mean, from the medical aspect, but also from like the mental health aspect. I think like if my kid is not in a good mood and you say, hey, are you good? And they'll be like, oh, I'm fine. And like, I can physically see you're not fine. Like, your face is saying otherwise.
Yeah.
So
we experienced a lot of that when Levi was really young. He went undiagnosed with silent reflux for 8 months. They thought he had an autoimmune disorder at one point, and it was just really, it was so much at that point. And I was, you know, being a new mom, you're honing that skill of advocating for your child, I think. And I mean, we ended up switching pediatricians over this. We ended up, you know, seeing several specialists over this. And I remember really what sticks out the most, because he had a lot of eczema issues, but he kept having these like sinus infection issues, ear infection issues. And I'm like, we were ear infection after ear infection after ear infection. And I kept pushing for tubes. They're like, well, we try to get them to like a year old. And I'm like, I don't want to live life like this. Like, my child is in pain. Like, and you know, it always hits on a Friday afternoon after the doctor's office has closed.
Absolutely.
It's like, I don't know why. So it's like, then you're like, okay, well, I guess I got to go to urgent care. And you just never
I don't like doing that. I know that they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
But if I can make it to like a 4:15 appointment.
Oh, yeah.
On Essen Lane, which is a nightmare for those not from here.
Yeah.
But I will do it to not have to go to an urgent care, because I want somebody that I have a relationship and a good rapport with that knows my kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and like our current pediatrician is so wonderful. And, you know, I brought an issue recently where I'm like, I know that like this is maybe not something that is concerning on its own, but this is why I feel it's concerning. And he validated. He's like, no. He's like, I agree with you. I think, you know, let's see how this plays out over the next few weeks. If you feel the need that like you really want to come in and do some x-rays on something, like, you let me know. I'm here to support you. I think you have valid concern. I don't think it's anything, truthfully. He's like, but I'm never opposed to just doing something to get you peace of mind, especially when there's like additional cause for concern. So it's really important to find those doctors and medical professionals, and when you're talking in that sense, to figure out like, hey, how do we best treat this child, because they don't really know how to communicate. Even at 5, you know?
Oh, no.
They don't know how to they can kind of tell you this hurts, I don't feel good, you know, whatever. But they can't give you specifics of it hurts like this, or, you know, it's an ache, or a stabbing pain or whatnot.
My 30-something-year-old husband sometimes can't describe it. So I don't really expect it of the kids, but sometimes genuinely, even with, you know, the older 2 girls, they don't know what they're feeling and why they feel off.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that both my older girls do suffer with is anxiety, but 2 different forms of it. And with our second, she had a real difficult transition into primary school, where she just would have these meltdowns because she has performance anxiety. So she would, like, if she was to be called on or she needed to ask a question, she'd be mortified. And we just had a series of teachers, which were wonderful teachers, up until a certain grade, to where they're just like, oh, it'll be fine. And you always, as a parent, would like to think that they'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
And that is just not the truth all the time. No. Sometimes we give it a little bit of time to see where it goes, and then sometimes we need to get help.
Yeah.
So in figuring out the help. And that was literally one of the hardest things to figure out, what type of help works best for her, because her grades were fine.
Yeah.
But she was struggling. She was having a hard time. She didn't cry to go to school, but she'd have a hard time there.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like figuring out and then working with the right team of people and communicating, and then them kind of spending time with her and seeing certain things. Like, if they didn't see one of those episodes, they didn't know it existed.
Right.
Because she could function fine.
Yeah.
She could, but then there are moments where, like, when it wasn't okay, it wasn't okay. And hey, listen, you know, how can we in the future make sure that things are in place to where when they're not okay, that we're not just starting from scratch. There's already a system in place. This is how we do it to kind of like minimize triggers or like help her feel more comfortable or whatever. But I mean, it's one of those things like, you know something is off and you're like, I can't put my finger on it.
Yep.
But there is something and we're going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I 100% appreciate our pediatrician because I'm like, hey, listen, this is what's going on. And so then she'll like then listen to what I'm saying, but then like she'll go and she'll talk to whatever girl it is. And like she'll kind of just like feel it out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like all concerns are valid. We will explore all options and like try and rule it out. And I appreciate that. Let's explore the options.
Oh yeah. I mean, just it's stressful enough. So it's like if you're not feeling supported by your medical staff, I mean, we switched pediatricians. Levi was probably like 6 months old, and I'd finally just had enough. And I was like, I just didn't feel validated. Everything was made to make me feel like it wasn't a big deal. It was very like, oh, you're making a big deal out of nothing. And like, that's never, and some of it maybe, it was first baby, whatever. But it's just one of those things that, you need some validation, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
And when you don't get that, it's just frustrating.
Well, you kind of feel unheard. But that's like, us as far as work goes, like if a client has a concern about something, we're not here to minimize it. We're here to address it and help put your mind at ease.
Yes.
Not to tell you, oh, you're tripping.
Yeah.
Oh, you're overreacting in this situation. And that doesn't give me more peace. You making me feel more crazy than probably what I already feel, to be quite honest. And like figuring those things out. And I think sometimes, like as moms, you go to your husband and they're like, oh, I think something is off. And they're like, it'll be all right. And it's like, we hope so. Or, boys will be boys or girls will be girls kind of thing, or that's just, they're just being a moody teenager. Sometimes like genuinely there's something a little bit more to it. And we just need to be okay with like questioning it a little bit.
Yeah. No, I agree. So you've mentioned some teachers. Have you ever felt you've had teachers that really advocated things to you that maybe you didn't realize were an issue? Have y'all experienced that?
We've had them, but like otherwise we wouldn't know that she was like crying in class, or with Peyton where she just wouldn't be present and kind of like fiddle. So I appreciate when they know to come to me and like, hey, do a check-in, because truly once they reach a certain age, they don't have to, and sometimes they don't. So I mean, it's crazy good the line of teachers that we've had to where overall I don't really have complaints about many teachers. I mean, truly maybe two between 3 kids over so many years of school. I've been very fortunate, but I'm still very cautious, and I know when I need to send an email and, hey, can we have a conversation, or check in to know that I'm present. It's also why I'm big in volunteering, so they can see my face. Yeah,
they feel like you built that relationship there.
Yeah, so like, hey, you can come to me and talk to me about whatever. But I think I'm happy that when it's needed, the conversation has been needed, that we can have it.
Yeah.
You and Levi.
So we have last fall, whenever he started pre-K, his pre-K teacher came to me and was like, I really, really, really feel like you need to get him screened for occupational therapy and speech therapy. And going into kindergarten, he graduated at the end of the summer from both of those programs. And going into this year, I feel like he's so much better prepared. And I praise his teachers last year for recognizing, because I did not recognize, sometimes you just don't realize that something is a problem.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you live with your child, your first child. You don't really know what to expect, like what levels they're supposed to be at. Yeah. And, there's cute little speech that they have that you think is adorable.
Yeah.
But it didn't dawn on you that maybe they're behind. And so I really appreciated his teachers for advocating for him to me.
Well, I'm glad you said that. That's actually true to us with Peyton, our first kid. I don't know, poor first children. But when she was in pre-K, and they said, hey, listen, I think that there's something off. Can we get her evaluated for speech?
Yeah.
And we ended up needing speech until I think about 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it. She has great dialect now, but literally she had to be retaught to say certain things.
Yeah.
And like we thought that was one of the things she grew out of. And clearly she was never going to grow out of it without the proper help.
For sure. With that, I think, educating yourself on all of these different things. If a teacher or medical professional, whoever brings it to your attention, or even if you just have a hunch that you're like, this is just not like sitting well with me.
Yeah.
I think I've gained so much power and knowledge just, talking to other moms and doing research and just saying like, hey, like, have you experienced this?
Yeah.
One, I think it helps you find some community that you're not alone. And two, another mom going through something similar may go, you know what, we tried this, this, and this, and what finally worked was this. I had that just the other day with a friend of mine. We were talking about her daughter, and she's got some eczema and allergy stuff going on. And I was like, she was talking about like the ENT and the dermatologist. And I was like, maybe you need to try an actual allergist.
Yeah.
And like things you just, when you're, again, your first baby, you just don't really know to think about.
I think that's the good thing about having community and friends that are moms too, because that referral system is like no other. Because usually I'm like, okay, if you have a kid and I know you said something like that, what doctor did you use? What did you think about that doctor? Or what school did you pick? Like with picking out preschools and like, okay, what was your experience there? That referral system is gold in your community, because usually you're going to hang around with people that are similar in parental whatever as you are, and so I trust your opinion on what you think. Or maybe you may say something, well, that's not necessarily what we need at this time, but you never know, you may be able to pass that along to somebody else. I think that's so like you can't replace that. Having people that you can go to and say, hey, listen, who did you use for whatever?
And I mean, I know Google gets like a bad rep when it comes to medical stuff, but I feel like even you can learn some valuable stuff, even if you
can definitely learn worst case scenario.
You can definitely learn if you're going to die. But I think it's all in how you think about it. Does it provide you valuable questions to talk to your doctor about, or your therapist, or whoever it is that we're trying to, talk to? Does it provide you questions that maybe you wouldn't have thought about on your own? Probably. Probably. And some of them might be stupid. And they're like, did you Google that? But still, it just opens that door that you may have not thought to ask, well, what about, is there any other cream or, whatever for this? And they may not have thought about it. You may have kind of skirted some shortcuts, or they may go, oh no, this is not right. But just giving you that knowledge to go and feel confident in that appointment to ask those questions. Certain situations, I'm like, I'm not going to Google it because it's going to really always I feel like it's a downward spiral. But I think in doing that research, for sure, Google reviews, I want to see your best review and I want to see your worst review. What was it? And if it's especially something dealing with my kid and your communication sucks, and I see that continuously, we ain't got nothing to talk about. We don't never need to I don't even need to try and schedule an appointment, get on a wait list. I find that is one of the worst things. It's like every good thing has a wait list. Why? This sucks. Like I need help with this today. Like a good ENT, a good pediatric allergist. It's only like, I think probably 2 in our area. And so like you're waiting so many months to get in to see them. But part of it is the exclusivity makes it so great or whatever. And you want to see the best person. You want to get, but I think that kind of sucks. But to Google it and say, these are the questions I need to ask. I think it's good. So you have a ballpark. Or sometimes that allows me with the questionnaire to the kids, like, hey, are you experiencing itchy eyes or runny nose or whatever? So I know like kind of what route we need to go. But
it makes me think of the time where like Peyton was, oh my God, maybe 2 years old at the time, and she found a thing of Tums on the side of the bed, and how mortified we are because, you know, like, of course you read the back of the label and they're like, don't do this and don't do that, and you're like, oh my God, my kid is like looking all chalk mouth.
Yeah.
And having to call poison control to say, do I need to rush my 2-year-old to the emergency room because she overate a thing of Tums tablets. And they're like, no, it's gonna be okay, just let her drink a ton of water. And you're just like, okay. But it's like, I read the label.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it was giving me enough information.
Yeah.
As scary as it was, I have to call poison control because all you're thinking is like, they're gonna have CPS come to my house. I'm gonna be reported because I let my kid just eat Tums like candy.
Yeah.
And she just saw it and it looked like candy.
Yeah.
And she partook. You know? So
I mean, Tums are deceptively packaged and created.
This was before the Fruit Chew was. This just looked like a giant Smartie.
Yeah.
Which for some reason, kids love Smarties these days.
They do. My child loves Smarties. That's so funny. A friend of mine was telling me how he had to call poison control because his child ate one of those, you know, those little silicone beads in the little packet that like, it's like sometimes it'll come in the shoebox.
Oh my God, yeah. That they literally say do not eat is poison.
Yeah.
I can see that being scary.
Yeah. And so he was telling me, he's like, he posted this on Facebook. He's like, so I had to call my wife and tell her that while she was gone, I had to call poison control to talk about this. I was like, marriage pro tip, always start with everybody's okay, but I just need to tell you this.
Exactly.
I have trained my husband because he'll start off and he's like, there's a wreck, you know, this happened. And I'm like, are you okay? Thinking he's calling to tell me he got in a wreck or he got, you know, whatever. And so I'm like, look, I need you, if you're calling about this kind of stuff, and we don't call very often during the day, like we're kind of more texters throughout the day because we're both busy. And, so if he's calling me midday, I am already alerted that there might be a problem.
Right.
So I'm like, and so we were just laughing about that. He's like, it actually is okay. He goes, it's more, he's like, I mean, obviously you don't want them just eating it. He's like, it has that because it's more of a choking hazard than it is
poison. Okay. Huh. Good to know.
So good to know. I would still call him poison control if your child eats that, but still, yeah, you know, those are scary moments, but it just is what it is, you know, so.
Don't be afraid to call.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, to kind of wrap things up, it goes to show you that, like, knowing your child, like, in that moment, you know, if they're acting a little funny or they're not quite, you know, like, you can pick up on those things as their parent.
Yeah.
And so if you are sitting there and you're like, something's just not sitting right with me, or your intuition as a parent, or specifically a mother, because I feel like mothers have this God-given gift that
Spidey senses.
I mean, you just know. And so it's just, you know, if you hone into that, pay attention to it.
And I think don't be afraid of the judgment.
Yeah.
For your kid having to go to speech or you pursuing that evaluation for any of those things, because it is just, it's better. I believe it's better safe than sorry. I'd rather you get an evaluation or a second opinion on something than to just pretend like it's going to go away, because it's not the cool thing to do. And it's funny the amount of kids now that I know that have had to take the avenue of speech, or like, I feel like braces weren't cool when I was in school. Now it's cool to have braces because you need it. So it's like, don't be afraid of the things that your kids need. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I mean, look, whenever I shared a few weeks back that Levi had graduated speech and occupational therapy, I've had 3 of my mom friends reach out and they were like, how did you know? Tell us about this. Do you feel like, you know, he was making good progress? What were his issues? Because this is what, I mean, when you share and you open up on those things, it gives people, you never know like how it's going to help somebody else, because I think we'd like to think, oh, well, you know, I'm being a perfectionist and maybe you resonate with this. I'm just like, oh, you know, I don't need help. I don't need this. I got it. And that's just not the case. It's just not the case. I have to remind myself that all the time. And so it's like when his teacher brought it up, I was like, I don't think he really needs that. She's like, but I do think he needs that. And here's why.
But let me tell you what it is. It's like you can understand everything he says.
Yes.
So that way you speak Levi.
Yes.
You speak fluent Levi.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean everybody else can speak fluent Levi.
It's so true. When you understand that,
yeah,
it's like the light bulb goes off.
Yeah. So I had to appreciate that with Peyton, which one of the weirdest things, she had a hard time saying peas, which her name started with a P. She said it different, but it sounded adorable. We didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something was wrong. So, and it's okay. She's better for it. She performs on stages. She speaks very well with everything except how was your day at school, and we get good. Good. That's all we get. So
fine.
Yeah. With attitude.
Good. Yeah. Levi even now will tell me. I don't want to talk about this right now. Okay.
But you will later, sir. We must discuss your day because we need to discuss our feelings and how things are going. So mommy can check for good social cues and all that stuff.
100%. All right. Well, hopefully this provided some good tips on how to advocate for your child on many different things.
Yeah.
So just a reminder, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. And as always, you can find us on Instagram at MomFriendMaterial.
We hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you guys later. Bye.